When I showed the positive result of the pregnancy test kit to my friend, I had no idea at all what to think or do. But my friend, who said the very first things over this pregnancy and this unborn child, she said, of course you're going to keep this baby because I know you're going to be a great mom. And I think because of what she said, it really set me on a specific path and a way of thinking of, okay, how am I going to do this?
When Sarah gave me a call that day and she told me the news, I just felt like my world had just collapsed. I mean, I had just entered NS, I was 21 and Sarah was 18. I didn't really know how to process any of that information, and just this gamut of thoughts, ran through my head. I just felt like I wanted to run away from the problem. I contemplated suicide, then I realized I lived on the 3rd floor in a 4-story block. I remember asking Sarah, when are we gonna see the doctor? And she was like, she knew immediately what I was talking about. She's like, we're not going. I think deep down in my heart, I knew that abortion is not God's way, right? But it's just the reality of it in that moment was really, really overwhelming. And, on top of that, our parents didn't really know about our relationship. We were both serving pretty heavily in church as youth leaders. It was like as if, you led this kind of double life.
Before I could bring myself to tell my parents, I went with one of my youth leaders to see a gynae. Seeing the baby on the scan on the screen for the first time, I think that's when reality really hit me. So the doctor looked at the scan, looked at me and said, "Oh, such a cute baby." And I think that's when I realized that this is the baby that was now mine to protect and love.
I didn't know how to tell my parents. I just didn't have the guts to physically look them in the eye and tell them, what had happened. And so I sent them an SMS. I decided to take the longest route home possible. At some point in that journey, I just could not take the weight anymore. I had turned off my phone. I didn't want to see a reply. I'm sure my parents had probably tried to call, but what I received when I turned on the phone was an SMS that said, "We are in shock, but we love you. Please come home."
So along the whole process and the whole journey, after we told our parents, the reactions were very mixed because not everybody was for us keeping the baby. There were other voices that said, well, you could keep the baby, but give the baby up for adoption when the baby is born. Okay, you could keep the baby, but is marrying Mark the right thing?
After much sort of back and forth and a lot of discussions, every weekend became a discussion because I was in NS. I think eventually everybody, ourselves, our parents, both sets of parents, just came to that collective decision that life is sacred, that we do want to, do the right thing and keep this baby, and then thus for us everybody to be in agreement that we would get married.
On the wedding day itself, I think we didn't worry too much about it. Everybody really chipped in. The leaders that were above us and in charge of us were so supportive, and they still came down to support. And we're just so grateful that these people never judged or condemned us at that point, but all they gave was the love of God to us, knowing that we were in a redemptive situation and that God was the one who was starting a new story with our lives. So amidst all that chaos, I still had to sit for my A-levels at the end of the year. And I was about 3.5-ish months pregnant. I had already done pre-applications to Oxford, and that was my dream at the time, to go overseas to study. And having this new information that I was pregnant, it was like a lot of my own personal dreams had to be given up. I mean, Inez is completely worth it, but there are consequences.
On 16th May 2006, Inez was born. It's pretty amazing. I think when we held her for the first time, I was like, you're finally here. Nothing really prepares you for that moment. This gift of life, the miracle that is a baby, a healthy baby. We named her even before she arrived, and we chose the name Inez, and the name means pure.
So looking back after the last almost 14 years, I think that he's definitely the best one for me, and he's my best friend still. Oh. Not everybody's in a situation where they can say they can marry or they want to marry the person who made them pregnant. Mark was very brave, and he was very different because he took responsibility.
but I think that responsibility for taking ownership for your actions is needful, you know. I think that's the very least that you can do as a man, to just go, okay, let's work this out together, and be that support.
To any girls who feel like they don't have their boyfriend or whoever it is, or even ex-boyfriend, right, who is supporting them, and it's hard to say that I'm gonna live my own life and put my life on hold for another life. The truth is that you're not alone. There are many other women who've gone through that, and all of them come out saying that they're glad they did it. They're glad that they actually had the experience now of having a new life that changes their life.